tonight's tactical enhancement is some more of the cheetah. Tonight we're playing Team Yankee, 75 points, and it's a dust-up. We've got the Americans in this corner fielding a M1 Improved Performance company of 1 HQ, 2 platoons of 3 of the Abrams and their Murdoch, some infantry and some VADs, but the VADs and the other platoon of M1s are off table. They'll be coming in from this table edge if they decide to grace us with their presence, which they'd fucking better, because as usual there's a shit ton of riskies on the table, like a scary amount, and there's another 6 tanks to come. Andrew, talk us through what you got.
Okay, so we have 2 battalions. 1 battalion of BDR 60s. They're the minimum size platoon, so that's 1 platoon.
Yep.
With an attached spigot.
Right.
That's company. So this is another company with an attached spigot and a gremlin.
Right.
This is the company commander. Oh, geez, he's facing the wrong way. Okay, no, facing the wrong way.
So he's in Ukraine then.
Next battalion is a T64 battalion, which is 1 battalion commander and 3 companies with 3 T64s in each.
Right, the rest will be along.
Divisional support, we have geckos, acacias, and hails.
Rightio. Now, another Andrew, which will get lovely and confusing in the commentary, is taking command of the infantry and probably something else when they arrive, which leaves me taking command of these tanks. Now, Rusky Andrew's reinforcements will come from that table edge over there, and they'll head for his objective here.
Possibly.
Well, maybe they might decide to come for this objective here. Either way, they've got to brave this open ground to get there, which will be fine if they come hooning down the road. The objectives I've got to catch are either that one there, which seems to have a house party on it, or the one that Andrew put over there by the artillery park, which is looking suspiciously more achievable, although Andrew will probably put a fuck ton of infantry in these buildings here. So not quite sure how that's going to go, but we'll now roll for turn 1, and highest dice roll gets to go first. Well, that looks promising. Oh, very good. Okay, well that doesn't mean Andrew will get to fire his artillery in the first turn, but there's no ranging markers. We have parked ourselves in terrain, so you can be rolling in on 6s, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Alright, well we'll check in at the end of first half of turn 1. In probably the single most uneventful turn I've ever had of this game, we did absolutely nothing. We decided to hunker down, make it very hard for the Russians to hit us, make them actually expose themselves before we get out to shoot them. Talk to the pros and cons of staying in place under artillery, which hasn't ranged in yet, but assuming he does range in, we can always move. Because really, if we go anywhere, there's so many units over there, they can just whip around the sides and run for the objectives and leave us chasing in all directions when his reserves pop up. So we did absolutely nothing this turn except sit still and hide. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so pretty simple turn. Everyone advanced. Both my infantry battalions managed their skill roll, which is unbelievable because it's only 5. So they moved 12. So they jumped over this, advanced 12. These guys advanced 12. I've got troops in this building. I've got all my AK teams facing this way, and all my RPG teams facing that way.
As you would.
And then the spigot team is in the little building here. Not that he'll really be able to do very much, but maybe next time he'll fire some missiles. My first T64 company moved cross country, so no shooting, and they moved up just behind the hedge line out of sight.
All right.
And that was it. And I failed to range it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he whiffed 3 times trying to range in the shots in that building, which is what we were hoping for. Statistically, it was likely, but you never know your luck. Okay, another really short turn. We did nothing again, and I'll explain why. For Andrew to push his assault, his infantry's got to move up for at least 1 more turn before they can assault in the next turn. Same with his tanks. If he moves them up ready to threaten this objective here, he's going to have to sit exposed in the open for a turn, while these guys here can just come barreling out from behind the forest, get nice clean shots without even having to do terrain tests, and start smacking them probably in the flanks, or if not, then, you know, the 2 shots per tank over there to 1 shot tank here is pretty favourable. And I think we're better off waiting for a little bit for reserves to start turning up and changing the dynamic before we go exposing ourselves. So we might want to think about what we're going to do with these M113s in a minute. And for these guys to do any serious shooting, they've got to move up to the hedge, and it'll be the same battle issue. You might pick off a couple of infantry stands with those big guns, but that's about it. So we are really better off doing nothing for a turn, letting the Russians commit themselves, and when we have more shit on the table, as in, you know, at least 3 platoons, then we might be able to start doing something useful. Right, another calm before the storm game. Always well, it's sort of. I mean, there's an awful lot of ranging shots, but the Marines are sort of sitting around wondering what the fuck are they shooting at. So these guys adjusted their position, so the infantry are getting ready to push an assault in the subsequent turn. We did figure out that this stretch between the wall, the brick wall there, and the hedgerow is a good size for the artillery to call in a smoke barrage. And that will completely block line of sight to the assaulting forces in the open field from our flank hit of tanks. Problem is, we can't really move the tanks away from that objective, because if Andrew gets lucky with his reserves, they'll be popping up on that thing any second. So we're playing a bit of chicken at the moment. Now, Andrew has managed to roll no 6s at all, with
9 dice.
the acacias twice and the hails once. They are whiffed. And he even fired 3 spigots at him, which I assume was an act of frustration, because there's no real need to do it otherwise.
I hit something.
And they were managed to miss as well, so it's 12 dice and no 6s. And we're moving into turn 3, and it's reserves. You got a dice? All right. American Andrew, roll a dice. On a 5 or a 6, something turns up. Well, that's not what we were looking for. Roll that again. That is definitely not a flat roll.
First roll.
Hey, bingo, 6. We're bringing stuff on. All right, we'll check in at the end of turn 3.
Well, you're the man, you're the psychologist, you better work us all through this.
Oh, I'm off duty.
From what I understand, you guys are never off duty. You're always thinking about someone.
Just trying to lure you into a false sense of security. Right, so American Andrew is rolling up a storm. Ruski Andrew is not.
Oh, lots of ones at the moment.
One of the reserve platoons came on, so naturally we brought up the Abrams. They spaced out, so the artillery can't get them as easily. And one of them got a nice shot through the gap there and picked off a T-64. That was a bit lucky, but happy to take it. The other ones, after realising the 50s were out of range and wondering why we're shooting with 50s, put a couple of main armament rounds into the infantry and killed, what, 1, 2? Something like that. 2. American Andrew brought out the transports and started dumping 50 caliber fire on the battalion commander, who for some reason is sitting all by his fucking lonesome in the nearest building to the enemy. Hit him a couple of times, and actually got a chance to do a firepower, but didn't quite get there. Worth a try though, but no joy. So that moves us into Russian turn 3. Andrew, roll yourself a reserve dice. I want to see if you get those reserves in.
Don't like your dice.
Nobody likes my white dice, that's why you bought me the blue ones. I don't like you either. Alright, well Andrew's continuing to roll shit, and we'll check in at the end of turn 3. Right, with the arrival of the Americans and the destruction of one of the tanks, Andrew's gotten a bit more careful, particularly given his fucking reserves didn't turn up, and his dice continue to be abysmal. So he's pulled back one of the tanks into cover. The other one was going to get into cover over here, but bogged. On the plus side, he did manage to range in the artillery, which is now plonked firmly on that building. Clipped a couple of APCs as well, and it blew away 1 sortine. He ranged into the 3rd go, so he needed 6s to hit anything. Next turn, it's going to be a very ugly place to be. and there's too much infantry here for the tanks to push through just yet. They need some support for that. Now, in return fire, this tank missed, and this tank actually moved up to get a shot on this tank, hit it, bailed it, and then rolled firepower 1. So Andrew's shaking his head and reminding himself to bring his own dice next time, because he's using mine today, and my dice are notorious for being shithouse. It's working out very well with Andrew using my dice. On that note, we're moving into the American turn 4. Right, end of American turn 4, and the other reserves turned up, the VADs, and everyone's in vehicles has moved up and started just dumping firepower on the Ruskies. My tank shot at the tanks and did nothing. American Andrew, fired a fuck ton of bullets, lots of taxpayer dollars there, and killed what? 1 stand of Russians, something like that?
No, nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Well, that was spectacular. It was like one of those demonstration videos you see when the entire platoon is shooting at absolutely nothing for the video cameras. Didn't do a damn thing. We weighed up the pros and cons of moving the infantry out from underneath the artillery template, and we decided to keep them where they are, because the moment you move out, they've got no cover, they'll be in the open, they'll be easy to hit, they'll be easy to range in on. And then there's these guys ready to jump up and have something to shoot at with all the Kalashnikovs. And we thought, no, it's probably not worth the pain. So we've kept them there. We'll just soak up the casualties and hopefully they won't be too severe. That said, Andrew, you got 2 dice now. This is a Russian Andrew trying to get some tanks on so we can actually have a game. Nothing still. Fuck me sideways. Well, this will be a short turn. Right, just very quickly, because Andrew had an extremely short turn. His reserves didn't turn up, so everything's basically hunkering down and just shooting where it has to. He didn't kill anything. He did range in the artillery, however, on the middle of that cluster of tank and APCs and VADs, but through a combo of fairly, well, you know, what can I say? Andrew is rolling absolute crap today. There's no other way of putting it. So we got through that unscathed, but it doesn't mean we should move, because sitting under the template, that's probably a bad idea. And we're over to American turn 5. Right, so it was in risk of getting bogged down into a bunch of people sitting still and throwing dice at each other, so we decided to dislodge this, and we've moved the tanks at speed, their full reach down here. It's a bit of a risk, because this is where the reinforcements come in from. However, they are backed up by these guys who moved into the woods there. And I've kept these guys 8 inches away from the hedge, so if they want to try and get flank shots with their upgraded RPGs, they've got to hop the fence, and then they'll be cleaned up in the open next turn. But that will then clear these guys out, which opens the way for those infantry to actually do something. So we really just needed to do something risky to dislodge the status quo. It would have been the most boring game ever. So the tanks didn't shoot. The VADs just rained hell in this general direction, killed a few stands. A couple of shots hit the battalion commander, but he bounced them onto a team over here. And these guys drove up and fired more shots at the battalion commander, and Ruski Andrew decided, you know what, the battalion commander's better off dying than risking the Spigot team dying. The Spigot team's going to cause me some troubles sooner or later on this flank. And that was it. A few more kills on the Russian side, but more importantly, we're making shit happen. Right, now Andrew said this is do or die turn. This is the turn we took the risk. And Andrew said, if he manages to make it pay off, then he can win, or at least have a good fight. If not, he's fucked. So what happened is he rearranged in the Acacia artillery and fired his Spigot this way and cleaned up half the VADs. That wasn't too bad. Then he jumped his infantry out here to do the big hard push, take that risk, so if he fails they can get shot up in the open. He moved his tanks over here and his CO to support these guys, and everything let rip at this platoon, and they bailed 1. That was it. I have to say the Russian luck today has been fucking abysmal. Andrew's not done anything wrong. It's just, this is why we don't gamble, I suppose. Yeah, so we'll keep playing. Next turn, there's guaranteed to be another platoon of T-64s turn up. If we completely fail to kill the T-64s this turn, then Andrew's still in the game. Otherwise, he's going to be going home going, fucking stupid game or something like that.
Not at all.
No, actually,
It's just a game of dice.
that's true. He doesn't say that. That's what I say when I lose badly. But yes, so that's basically what happened. We took a risk. We got lucky. Andrew took a risk in order to capitalise the risk we'd taken. We'll see if he gets lucky. But yeah, this turn was abysmal. Right, so we moved up all the tanks and got cover where we could to give some protection against the remaining 3 T-64s that will turn up here. These guys have exposed their flanks to the oncoming reinforcements in order to maximise the amount of fire we can dump this turn. And we picked off that guy, 2 out of 3 of these, the other one's bailed. Pretty good haul, really. The M113s cleaned up 2 out of the 3 RPG teams, which is actually, I don't know statistically, but fuck it, that's what happened. Over here, these last 2 VADs went and hosed the Spigot team in that building there, which is just as well, because the Spigot team would probably clean them up otherwise. But that platoon's a little bit eroded now, isn't it? Yeah. And this platoon is now starting to get a bit eroded as well. So it's starting to pile up, and look, we're in a really dominant position at the moment. It comes down to whether Andrew gets good luck or shit luck when his reinforcements turn up, and whether he manages to kill some Abrams and have a proper stand-up fight from here. Now, if we start cleaning things up, we can move on that objective, and if he brings his infantry back to protect the objective, then we can move our infantry up from our objective and pincer it and get that one. I think the odds of getting the one all the way down there are pretty low, although I do like the idea of shooting up the artillery park. So that's the state of play. It's now over to Russian turn, whatever the fuck we're up to, I've lost count.
That's 6 now, right?
6, and we'll see what he can... Well, and look, we're going to say this a lot of times today. Russian Andrew's dice have been traitors. They've been absolutely fucking horrific. We haven't shown you all of them, but even when they shouldn't really matter, they've still been atrocious.
There's still been ones.
Alright, let's see what happens. Right, well, that was the Russian turn just completed. And look, it wasn't too bad. Their shooting was a bit shit. They managed to pick off one with, I don't know, one of these guys. They did have this little infantry guy there who came running out to shoot this fellow on the side and completely missed. That tank went barreling over the hedge to scream around and get a cheeky flank shot, completely missed. He'd get cleaned up by the dragons in the next turn. There's dragons in that building. This tank got bailed just by the turrets pointing the other way, and then this little infantry guy assaulted it, waded through a fuck ton of 50 cal defensive fire and somehow survived it. And he took one hit in the end and he saved it. And he wasted a tank. In fact, no, he didn't even waste the tank.
He didn't even hit it.
He needed a 6 to hit, he didn't hit. But then I've got to roll a dice to counterattack. And that tank, where is he? That guy, that fucking culprit there decided, no, he wouldn't stick around and kill the guy right in front of him. He'd fuck off to the other side of the river, leaving the bailed out tank to be destroyed. So that little dude, without shooting or hitting a damn thing, is responsible for a 9-point dead Abrams. As for the rest of the shooting, look, I think it was one of these guys actually that picked off that tank, so their arrival counted for 1. And the rest of the shooting, 3 tanks, including a flank shot, only managed to bail, and the RPG missed. And then, of course, the guy that fled across the river actually passed his morale to stick around. We decided we'd determine whether to keep another turn going on whether this guy fucked off or not. So the whole platoon had gone. I think Andrew would still be in the fight. But the dice continue to favour NATO this evening. So after all of that shit raining down, the Americans have still got a pretty commanding position with 4 tanks, dragons, flank shot and that. It'll take us a couple of turns to clean up the remainder of these T-64s, but the odds are very much favouring the Yanks. And then we've got a clean platoon of infantry over there to move up with VADs, keeping those guys busy. So Ruski Andrew has decided to call it. Quite reasonable at this point. if only because if the dice carry on with their current trajectory, then why would you fucking bother? That's pretty terrible.
Pretty woeful effort, but that's, you know, you have games where it just shit just doesn't work for some reason. Having said that, these T64s never do anything. They always just miss and then die horribly. And it has been every single game that I've used them, they have just done nothing.
Actually, there are games where they have won you the game by doing nothing.
By being very good targets and soaking up eye there.
Well, no, I wasn't thinking that. There's the two big games we played on the 6x8 foot table, and these things came barreling up, and your other things did all the killing. They got eroded in the process, so all that was left was T64s. But because T64s are tough motherfuckers, there's nothing I could do to hurt them. So they came up as reserve and just sat there like an impenetrable pillbox on an objective or something, and there's nothing I could do to shake
Well, actually, no, in one game they did do something when you and I teamed up and we fought against Emilio.
Oh, yes.
And I put
Oh,
all
you
of my
cleaned up his whole
flank.
flank. Yeah.
No, I didn't kill anything.
Didn't you?
No, but it took all of his heavy armor the entire game to kill them. And on the other flank, we just moved
which
everything
just
up.
freed us up for the infantry to go and do the job elsewhere.
And, so okay, in that respect, they died, but in the end, it won us the game.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because the T64, look, they don't always die, but they never really kill much.
No, they don't.
But by having them, it shapes the entire game around them.
I'm just thinking what else I can take for 45 points, which is a lot.
Well, T80s, T80s are good. T80s get exactly the same firepower, but they're tough as nails.
Yeah, so a lot of those shots are just bouncing off.
Yep. Or you take a fuckload of light armor like Storms, they're P23.
Actually, they're front armor 20, aren't they?
T80s are, yeah.
And what's the anti-tank on your opens?
20.
Oh my god, so you can't even hurt them.
That's right. If I know you're taking T80s, I've got to take different tanks. Or no, the other thing though is the T80s are nearly as expensive as a upgraded Abrams, and they've only got one shot each. So the Abrams will just charge forward through that shit and then flank them if they can. But it does create a problem though if you do combine arms with T80s and infantry.
Yep.
That becomes a suicide run.
Yeah.
In fact, the T80s used by some Russian players as an assault tank because it's got good side armor. So those 66s the American infantry have are just going to bounce off. So yeah, you can be quite aggressive with the T80. They've got the same rate of fire whether they move or sit still. So you may as well move every turn and dislodge the enemy and just try and get in amongst them.
Front armor 20.
Yeah, they're nasty.
Yeah, nothing's going to hurt them.
Well, you know those M1A1 Abrams I took, which were totally stupid because they just soaked up so many of the points out of the American list. They had nothing else. That would do the job against the T80.
Why? They're only anti-tank 22, aren't they?
23.
23?
And depleted uranium rounds. The Americans keep the best shit. See, a normal 105mm gun is AP-19. Everyone else has got, you know, the French, the Leopard ones, whoever the hell else has got 105mm, they're on 19. The Americans are the only one who's got AP-20.
Right. Well, food for thought. I think next time I'll leave the T-80s at home and take another company of infantry and a ton of air support.
Yeah, well, that takes another game again. Gentlemen, what have we learned?
Well, I think I've made the record for the most number of ones in game.
Yeah, that was pretty spectacular.
No, I think the force composition, I think T-64s are just, no. I think I'm better off taking more infantry and air support. Since it's pretty easy to kill those VADs, and once the VADs are dead, all those tanks will die to Heinz and Frogspots.
Yep. What if the Frogspots turn up? See, the thing is, I'm convinced that a T-64 is not a bad tank.
Just never had any luck with them.
Yeah, it's this, I don't know what it is.
I mean, they should have killed one by themselves. There's 3 shots, hitting 4s.
Well, they did get one. But then you got another guy, a guy on the flank, Mr. McLucky.
Yep.
You should have cleaned up.
Yep. Yeah, that platoon should have just been wiped out.
Yes.
And then it would have been a good fight.
Yeah, it would have been 4 tanks instead of 5 against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these guys. That's probably statistically even. whatever else is going on the table. A bit of artillery in the mix.
And these are in a really good spot since
They are.
you can't get flank shots on them. And if you want to advance to those objectives,
Yep, we've got to take risks, we'll clean them up. Changes the dynamic again. So that infantry's going to have to come out and play. There's M113's going to have to mix things up over there. That would be great. But as it is, we're just going to have enough weight of shot that unless luck turns around and I get Andrew's luck, we'll just steamroller.
yeah.
I am convinced that T-64s could work.
They sound like a great tank. That's why I took them.
And 10 of the fuckers actually do a pretty good job. That's a lot of shots.
Yep.
I don't know. I've seen them be useful, but I've never seen them kill much.
No, they don't kill anything.
Got a couple.
Okay, well, one of those was by a dude.
Yeah,
with a
one's a
Zuki.
good,
So out of 10 T-64s firing for how many turns now?
A dude
I've
with an
killed one
RPG.
tank.
And gave an assist to a random dude
Yeah.
with a bazooka.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe not so much.
No, not a good return.
I mean, look, I spent a lot of the game not being aggressive out of fear of what these things were going to do when they turned up. Interesting, if we'd been more aggressive,
Yeah.
we could have been pushing the objective hard, while you were completely failing your fucking reserve rolls. In fact, Andrew only got the first platoon of reserves on because of the rule that he's auto arrive.
Yeah.
He did roll a single
Not a
successful
single
reserve roll.
I haven't done it all game, so.
Not once.
Yeah, look, we could have gone hard, but Murphy's Law, they then turn up and shoot 3 tanks in the clacker and that's it. Interesting, Andrew did probably the most damage with some spigots that cleaned up a couple of things and with some artillery that cleaned up a few things.
Yeah, I've always found artillery to be great for Russians.
Well, it's not the case in the real world too. Although, interestingly, it took your data range in on the building and then
Yeah.
you had
Oh, that was really unlucky.
Yeah, it was.
you must have rolled 12 dice on that.
I rolled 18 dice. So it was like 3 ranging attempts from 2 guns. So 18 dice and I didn't get a single 6.
Oh, my lordy my. Oh, well. Well, look, on that note, it was a game that had the potential to get really boring if we didn't do something that takes a risk. And I guess that's the way. If you want to win, you got to take a risk. We got lucky. The risks paid off. I think we both did fairly intelligent things on both sides of the table. Yeah, if we were playing poker, we would have cleaned out Andrew in about 5 minutes, I think. But we weren't. We were playing toy soldiers. I quite enjoyed that game toward the end when the movement started.
Yeah, it was good.
But then I was rolling better dice. Anyway, for those of you who are still watching, thank you for watching. Feel free to hit like, subscribe, tell your friends. Time to call it a night.